The reality is nobody wants to work with the salesperson that is trying to sell them something. People are afraid of you. There's books, there's science that shows this. And because I want them referencing smarter people than I am.
What would you advise someone who's struggling to accept the reality, and how would they, what's like the first steps of recovery?
I think if you're someone who, first off, I'll name this. You are getting the exact results you should be getting. So I think for the first thing we should name is that if you're not sure of what camp you're in, if you're not getting the results that you want, you're not selling enough homes, if you're not where you're at, you probably need to become more open-minded. And that's the whole point of that book, right? Is the growth mindset is really being open to new ideas, embracing new ideas, and be willing to let go of ideas. And one thing I've learned about learning is, for a lot of people, the problem is not learning something new. It's letting go of old school ideas or old ideas that no longer work or no longer function. And I would say that the first thing, if you have that mindset, what's really cool is it's been shown that anybody can transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And the simplest way to do that is to start focus on being open-minded, to start considering new ideas, to expose yourself to new ideas. And I think that the biggest thing that's holding people back is probably ego. A lot of people's ego is like, oh, it used to work, or just habit. This used to work. I'm confused by it. I think what you have to be willing to do is, I'm a firm believer, like we're almost always going through, like, for lack of a better term, rebirths, where we have to be willing to change ourselves to play a different game. And you can be attached to old school ideas. You can be attached to, I used to do this and it used to work. And if you're not getting results, something is clearly missing. Yeah. And it's very, very simple. You have a choice. I always tell people there's no right or wrong. There never is. There's just simply choices and consequences. And you have a choice to become more open-minded, to focus on growing and learning new ideas. And from what I've seen is with that path, there's a lot more positive consequences. People talk about consequences only being negative, but there's positive consequences, which usually means learning new models, learning new things. And what I've seen is that if you get stuck and you're like, no, I don't want to change. If you're if you're that 75-year-old agent who's still doing what you did 30 years ago, and you're unwilling to adapt to the changes that are happening, the consequence almost always is you get left behind. Yeah. Historically, those that are unwilling to go and change get left behind. And it's just choices and consequences, y'all. It's that simple. For me, I love that perspective of you got to be growth oriented to be willing to grow and adapt to new things.
Yeah. What's the difference though between like growth oriented and losing focus though? Because I think sometimes like growing up, well, it's like we grew up in a coaching, like the Mike Ferry coaching program, right?
Yep.
And I think the reason that we both had successful starts to our career was because we only went to the school of Mike Ferry, right?
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
And we weren't that conference junkie that's like, I'm at Tom this week, I'm at Mike next week, I'm at Brian Buffini the following week, right? And you just spend time traveling the world, going to different conferences and never implementing anything.
Yeah.
And I think that made me successful because I wasn't distracting myself with other theories and other schools of thought. But I am 100% in your court in the thought that you have to be growth minded and you have to look at other schools of thought. And I'm almost upset with myself for not open and being more open-minded in the past. But how do you be open-minded but also not distracted?
Just to give you like a real world example. So John is like we literally had an argument this morning about a certain thing of like changing something. And John's like, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. I'm like, bro, we have to adapt to this thing. It's not working. He's like, no, but this is the way it is. This is the way it's going to go. And it's sometimes you find yourself in that place of like, where's the science that proves that this is right or wrong? Because we were taught real estate's a numbers game. But sometimes when you're building a business, there's not a direct science that tells you where you're going. So you're kind of taking it by like trial and error. So how do you know when consistency is not working and you need to adapt? And when do you know that adapting is just a distraction from doing the hard work?
I love this question. I always tell all my clients that knowledge without action is pointless. Mm-hmm. And what you were just naming is all the people that go around, they learn things, they implement nothing. I actually think this game is very, very simple. If I were to give anybody like a 1, 2, 3 to go be successful in real estate, it's 1, reach out to people. I don't care which people. You choose what. Everybody has different dialects, right? You can buy PPC leads. You can buy Zillow leads. You can go chase your friends or family. If you have a big sphere, it doesn't matter. Reach out to people and have conversations, whether it's text or on the phone, it doesn't matter, or on Facebook. The North Star of those conversations is not to sell somebody something. That's number 2. The North Star is never to sell somebody something. It's to make them feel seen, heard, and valued. With your friends, family, past clients, it's making sure that they know that they matter to you. Because the reason your past clients and your people don't come back to you is they feel invisible, y'all. The reason paid leads, which is the other thing I've mastered, don't come to you is they feel pressured. They don't feel safe around you because you're trying to sell them something. I had a conversation on my podcast, the Leads Geeks podcast, with Matt McKenzie. And I asked him, what's the biggest thing? Why do people suck at converting leads? And he said, you do these things that make people feel unsafe all the time. You sound salesy. And y'all, what do we do to salespeople? What does an average person do when they are confronted by a salesperson? They run away, right? Or they fight back. Their walls go up. Our job when we're talking to leads or past clients and North Stars to make people feel comfortable, seen, heard, valued. This is just psychology 101. And what's funny about this is none of us work in sales. I'll just name this, right? Do either of you guys build homes and sell homes? Nope, right? If you build homes and sell them, you're the only salespeople in real estate because you're selling a product. We are in the service industry. And what we're doing is we're providing a service. And my North Star, number 3, is my job is to find out their stories, what they want, what is already influencing them, and speak truth about the options to reflect truth back to them if I see incongruences, inconsistencies. What I know about human beings is, y'all, we are complicated. What I know is that when people are buying and selling, it never involves one person. It usually involves multiple people, and multiple people have differences of opinions. And my job is to play counselor and find the middle ground for them that they can both live with. My job is not to sell them anything. My job is to help them make the best decision for themselves and their families. This is how you build a business, one that converts people the most often on the front end and helps you get repeat business because people loved working with you. The reality is, nobody wants to work with the salesperson that is trying to sell them something. People are afraid of you. There's books, there's science that shows this. And if your people that you're following aren't referencing science and studies, like for me, I will always check the back of a book. And I'm going to go look and see how many notes are in there because I want them referencing smarter people than I am. And if your coaches and your people aren't referencing smart people, if they're just simply saying, well, this worked for me once, that's silly. But here's what I will say. There's far too many of you that know everything. You know a lot of these things. Hell, y'all, I read books a lot of times to simply remind me of what's already in my mind. The biggest thing, though, is it's not knowing it that matters. It is implementing it. It's taking action. It is doing something. Somebody who is so good at listening and having conversations and influencing people, if they never pick up the phone, they don't do anything, if they're just sitting there scared, never going to work. If you have somebody who's simply going to be willing to do the work, you will find results. It is a numbers game, y'all, by the way. It simply is. It's just your conversion rates go up. You become more leveraged, you get better results. Therefore, you have to work less to make more. So the numbers become more in your favor when you have better strategies. And y'all, here's the thing. I have coached, at this point, thousands of people directly over the last 8 years. I have never had one person come back and say, Robby, your strategy sucked, of listening more, being more empathetic, because let's just be real, the things we've been taught is follow the script, say these things, you'll sell homes. I teach people to take your scripts, throw them out the window, burn them, because they usually don't do you any good. But what's good about scripts is it gives people the comfort to actually do something. I understand that 100%, but it's not optimal. It is nowhere near optimal. Almost always what you need is to throw the script out the window and still make the calls and be more empathetic, do more listening, be more open-ended with your questions, use tell me more far more often, and stop making assumptions. So I think to answer your question, for me, it's always, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a math guy, so I look at split testing. Go take two strategies and have somebody make 100 phone calls, one where somebody is very scripted, very salesy, and then go take Matt McKenzie, who essentially was my protege. Matt McKenzie will outperform, outconvert. The best people that I've taught will outperform, outconvert 3, 4, 5 times more often compared to the other person. So that's what I would say is knowledge without action is pointless, y'all. Or as my some of my coaching clients know intimately, knowledge without action is fucking pointless. But I'm a little more moody.